And then the next day, he asked whether that's telling you that the truckers want to move 40-plus trucks tomorrow, starting in the morning. They have room on Wellington to fit it. That would just about clear out almost all of the residential areas. And you then advise him that you're having some issues, if you could scroll down, with the Parliamentary Protection Services, and the new interim chief is engaged, and you'll know more tomorrow morning, and we'll share that with him. You then, after that, on February 16th, as I understand it, you ask him if he's available for a call, and you have a phone conversation with Mr. Wilson. Isn't that correct?
According to this, yes. I don't recall it, but yes.
Yeah. And in that phone conversation, as I understand, you apologized that the deal fell apart because of some issues arising with the Parliamentary Security Services, and that it was not the protesters' fault. Isn't that correct?
I don't recall saying that specifically because I don't have a record of it. But I remember we did have a conversation of that. I was disappointed that we couldn't move more trucks out of the neighborhood.
Right. And it's fair to say that at all times through all of this, Mr. Wilson was engaged with you and he acted in good faith with you in your mind?
He did.
And he did everything he could in his power in order to move these trucks?
He did.
Right. And these individuals tried to move their trucks under the agreement onto Wellington, and it was the OPS who didn't allow it.
Well, I don't know if it was the OPS or PPS. I'm not sure how that worked ultimately, but events had overtaken that day. As you know, by that time, Chief Slowly had resigned, and I was made aware that Ottawa Police and the other police service were getting ready to move into tactical operations. So at that point, I think that was probably the greater reason why they stopped moving trucks up on Wellington Street.
Now, on February 14th, we know that the Emergencies Act was invoked. Were you consulted on the invocation of the Emergencies Act before it was invoked?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. Did the city request that it be invoked?
No.
Did the city weigh in on whether it was required, necessary, or needed?
Well, when it was released, I think, like most people, very few people knew exactly what the Emergencies Act was, to be perfectly honest. I remember growing up in Quebec what the War Measures Act was and the implications that had for the province of Quebec and the rest of the country. But no one had raised the Emergencies Act with us. But when it was invoked and I was briefed on what its powers were, I thought this is a very positive step to getting this situation resolved once and for all because of the provisions in the Act. So I very much supported it, and I was, as you may recall, the current chair of the Police Service Board, Eli El-Shantir, and I sent a letter to the Prime Minister thanking him for invoking the Act because it actually acted as the catalyst for us to move forward and get that whole situation in the downtown core resolved once and for all and give people their street and their homes back.
Mayor Watson, let me just ask you, you told us earlier today where evidence came out that these protesters, they were nasty, they were hateful, and they were vulgar. Is that right?
Yes.
And you said that you saw, or you said that they had ripped masks off of people?
Yes.
Did you actually see that?
No, I saw it reported in the media.
Okay. And I think you also said that certain people were attacked. Is that right?
I didn't say that, no. I said that I had death threats, but I wasn't physically attacked.
No, I didn't say that you were attacked, but you said that these protesters were attacking people. Did you not say that?
No. They were disrupting people's lives, that's for sure, and they refused on at least 3 occasions that I'm aware of that they refused to adhere to the provincial mandate of wearing a mask when going into a shop or a restaurant.
So you're not aware of any incidents of physical violence from the protesters?
Well, you'd have to ask the police. I know they arrested a couple hundred people and charged a couple hundred people. I don't know what the charges were, so I'm not privy to that information.
According to your knowledge? You don't know of any?
So I don't know any.
Of any physical attacks?
Not to my own personal knowledge, no.
Is it not true that the protest leaders were actually concerned about maintaining the safety lanes and raised that with you?
They did.
Right. And they wanted to ensure that the lanes were open so that emergency vehicles could always get through?
Correct.
Right. And the protest leaders cooperated with you and the city in maintaining those safety lanes, right?
Yes.
Right. And they maintained them?
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. And when new trucks would even arrive, they even organized to talk with what they referred to as block captains. Did they relay that to you?
No.
All right. But when new vehicles had arrived, to your knowledge, you agree that they always organized to make sure that those safety lanes were open?
Yes.
So we were trying to determine the size, the impact of the protest, et cetera. Now that's for all. Now also in terms of being armed, I want to be clear on this. We had we produced no intelligence to indicate that these individuals would be armed. And there has been a lot of hyperbole about that. That was something we wish to, when people think about what happened on January 6th of 2020, that is presence of mind, but we produced no intelligence to indicate that that would be the case.
I understand. What can you tell us about, was that just a worry, or were you actually seeing sort of threatening or aggressive behavior right at the outset?
So first, coming across Canada, and I'm going to speak bluntly, but I have to say that I'm trying to be blunt, but I don't have all the facts in relation to this. There was almost no reported criminal activity of any of this activity coming across Canada. There was a motor vehicle collision on the day before the event, and that had to do with somebody running into somebody who was in the Freedom Convoy. So it was conspicuous for the absolute lack of criminal activity.
You didn't see any evidence in the intelligence of espionage or in support of espionage. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't see any evidence in the intelligence of sabotage or anything in support of sabotage?
That's correct.
You didn't see anything in the evidence, any evidence in the intelligence of any form of foreign influenced activities within or relating to Canada that involved the threat to any person?
I saw media accounts, yes. I saw no information collected or intelligence produced in that regard, no. To support that, no.
Now, for my following question, when I say serious violence against a person, you'll understand I mean violence that would result in serious personal injury, okay? You didn't see any evidence in the intelligence of activities within or relating to Canada directed toward or in support of the threat of a use of acts of serious violence against persons for the purpose of achieving a political, religious, or ideological objective within Canada or a foreign state?
So yes, I know where you're going, and I want to be fair to my colleagues in planning. I saw online rhetoric. I saw information on social media. I saw assertions of that type of activity. Information. I'm aware of no intelligence that was produced that would support concern in that regard.
Thank you. And now for my next question, when I say serious violence against property, you'll understand I mean violence against property of the nature such as arson or destruction, a bomb, that sort of thing, okay? You didn't see any evidence in the intelligence of activities within or relating to Canada directed toward or in support of the threat of use of acts of serious violence against property for the purpose of achieving a political, religious, or ideological objective within Canada or a foreign state?
So again, not to be contradictory because I'm just trying to be fulsome. Our role is crime prevention, law enforcement, assistance to victims, public order, and emergency management. Therefore, in relation to the things you're discussing, we collected all the information, which some information asserted attempts at that. So we did see that and had to consider that. Did we have any credible intelligence that that would occur? No.
You stated earlier that you did have tow trucks lined up and that they were on their way to Ottawa prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And your interview summary says that OPS knew that if it arrived with tow trucks, many protesters would leave because the trucks were their home and livelihood. Do you stand by that statement?
I do.
All right, those are my questions. Thank you.
In your view, was the Emergencies Act necessary to end the protest in Ottawa?
Well, that's a loaded question. I'm a police officer. Parliament gives us legislation. We don't make legislation. They provide it to us and we use it to the best of our abilities. They gave us a piece of legislation to use. We were thankful for it and we used it to the best of our abilities to incorporate it in our plan.
And in your view, was there a police solution to the demonstrations?
A police solution? Yes.
Policing solution?
There was a solution and we reached that solution. We had some help with the EMCPA, the Emergency Management Civil Protection Act regulations that we have with the province and the Emergencies Act, but in my humble opinion, we would have reached the same solution with the plan that we had without either of those pieces of legislation.
Within around the same timeline?
Yes.
Okay.